Hello, friends. The 800 days of the war between Russia and Ukraine continues. The situation at Chasiv Yar is complicated. Bild military analyst Julian Ropp said the Russian army had advanced south of the city. After analyzing the video of the fighting, he came to the conclusion that the Russians managed to cross the Sieversky-Donets-Donbas Canal and advance towards the city. To the east and north of the Canal micro-district, Ukrainian armed forces are holding the line, but Ropp believes that it is now only a matter of time before the Russians enter the city in these areas. Russian military telegram channels also write that the Russian army was able to advance south of the city, in the place where the canal runs underground and is therefore not a natural obstacle. On the deep state map, the Sieversky-Donets-Donbas Canal area is listed as a gray zone. The next 2 weeks in Chasiv Yar will be very difficult, said Ukrainian political expert Sazonov, who is fighting in this direction. According to him, the Russians deployed assault troops to the city and distributed them among shelters and green space on the eve of a massive attack. Sazonov writes that some units of the Russians attacked the city head-on, suffering losses, but others bypassed Chasiv Yar on the flanks in order to put the logistics of the Ukrainian armed forces under fire control. The roads, he said, are shot through in places. On the flanks, they have not achieved critical results for us, but they are pressing on little by little because they have enough people for all this, writes the military man. And right now, a couple of weeks will be just very difficult. Everyone is aware. Everyone understands the situation. We are working, Sazonov added. The head of the city's military administration, Chaus, said the fighting had reached the city, where fewer than 700 people remain. Judging by the video, there are few places left to stay in Chasiv Yar. The speaker of the Operational Strategic Group of Troops, Kortitsa Voloshin, reports that the situation in Chasiv Yar is complex and fighting continues in the city. At the moment, according to him, the situation is still controlled by the armed forces of Ukraine. The enemy does not give up attempts to capture the city. He continues to destroy both Chasiv Yar and the surrounding settlements. The Russians are trying to get the heights on which the city stands and the outskirts of the city in order to shell Konstantinivka, Druzhkivka, Sloviansk, and Kramatorsk from there, he noted. The Russians managed to gain a foothold in Yevhenii in the Avdiivka direction, said the speaker of the Ukrainian group, Kortitsa Voloshin. The enemy has broken through and gained a foothold in this settlement. The part where the enemy is located is under our fire control. Measures are being taken to drive him out of there. Heavy fighting also continues there, but the situation is under the control of units of the Ukrainian army, says Voloshin. Ukraine has transferred reserves to this area. Russia, he said, achieved certain tactical successes, but did not gain an operational advantage. Meanwhile, Deep State reports significant advances by Russians near Yevhenii in Arkhangelsk, where, judging by the resource map, fighting is taking place in the middle of the village and near Novoalexandrivka. Over the past 24 hours, Russian troops in the Yevhenii area have advanced in an area up to 1.72 kilometers wide and to a depth of 1.2 kilometers. Russian military telegram channels also write about significant progress in Arkhangelsk, as well as that the Russian army has reached Novoalexandrivka, from which there will be about 10 kilometers to the Pokrov-Konstantinivka highway. Why are the Russians trying to advance towards the Pokrovsk-Konstantinivka highway? Everything is simple. The group of Ukrainian armed forces, which defends the only section of the front that has not moved in the area of Toretsk and New York, is supplied along this route. From the extreme point of the Yevhenii breakthrough, the Russians had about 10 kilometers left to ensure fire control of the route. But given the increased efficiency of the reconnaissance and strike component, the route will become more dangerous much earlier. And this is a real blow to the weak point of the Ukrainian armed forces, namely, logistics. An alternative delivery route through Izium and Kramatorsk will take 310 kilometers from Pavlograd instead of today's 160, that is, twice as long, which is critical by army standards. In current conditions, this will lead to a crisis for the group. Yes, there is a path through Pokrovsk and Drushkivka, but it is objectively worse and 20 kilometers longer. At the same time, the southern group of Russian troops is rushing forward precisely to cut off this alternative route. The only city on their way is Chasiv Yar. Ukraine on the brink. With this headline, The Economist published an interview with a representative of the main intelligence department, Skibitsky, who made a number of resonant statements. Firstly, Skibitsky does not see the possibility for Ukraine to win the war only on the battlefield. According to him, negotiations are inevitable, and reaching the 1991 borders is becoming an increasingly distant prospect and would not put an end to the war. Right now, both sides are vying for the most advantageous position ahead of potential negotiations. But they may not begin until the second half of 2025. By then, Russia will be facing serious headwinds. In his opinion, Russian military production potential has increased, but by the beginning of 2026 it will reach a plateau due to a lack of materials and engineers. Both sides may eventually run out of weapons. But if nothing else changes, then in Ukraine it will end faster. Secondly, in the near future, Russia will continue to implement its plan to seize Donbass. The fall of the Chasiv Yar is a matter of time, not today and not tomorrow, of course, but everything depends on our reserves and supplies, Skibitsky said. Russia is also preparing for an offensive in the Kharkiv and Sumy regions, but the timing of this attack depends on the stability of the Ukrainian defense in the Donbass. Skibitsky suggests that Russia's main attack will begin at the end of May or beginning of June. Russia has 514,000 troops in Ukraine, he said, more than the 470,000 estimate given last month by NATO Chief Cavalli. At the same time, Russia's northern group near the border with Kharkiv numbers 35,000 people, but it is planned to expand to 50,000 to 70,000 military personnel. Russia is also creating reserve divisions of 15,000 to 20,000 men, each in central Russia. According to him, this is not enough for an operation to capture a large city, but it may be enough for a smaller task. A quick operation to enter and exit, possible, but an operation to take Kharkiv or even the city of Sumy is a different order. The Russians know this, and we know it, Skibitsky added. Thirdly, in his opinion, the Russian army is no longer the arrogant organization that it was in 2022. And now it operates as a single body, with a clear plan and under a single command. The commander of the ground forces, Pavliuk, also announced Russia's plans to attack Kharkiv and Sumy. Our intelligence services say that the Russians really have a plan to capture Kharkiv or Sumy, but we don't know how serious these plans are and whether they are able to implement them with the forces they have, the general said in an interview with the Times. Today, Zelensky, in an address to border guards, said that Ukraine is facing a new stage of the war. Russia plans to expand offensive actions. Today is already the 800th day of the war. This is an extremely difficult and tough path that our state had to go through, and the path that still remains to be passed in order to end the war on fair terms, on Ukraine's terms. Now we are facing a new stage of the war. The occupier is preparing to an attempt to expand offensive actions, the president said. He added that today all Ukrainians, as well as Ukraine's allies, must do everything possible to thwart Russia's plans. Friends, this channel exists solely thanks to your support. If you have the opportunity and desire to support the channel, I will be very grateful to you. Thank you very much and see you in the next video.